Why did you pick that genre? Is it because you wanted to appeal to your community, or were there people who inspired you? You know.
Yeah, definitely people who inspired me, and also I don't know. I guess I loved it. I guess as a teenager or child watching comedians, I gravitated towards these comedians more, who were delivering material that I related to, and so. As I grew as a performer, I grew to love that genre more. And, you know, I'm talking about people like we both know, like Joe Avati, who gave me my first professional stand-up comedy job.
Oh, really?
Yeah, in professional stand-up comedy
How
job.
old were you at the time?
Oh, it was about almost 10 years ago.
Okay.
Now. Yeah. 2014, 10 years ago.
Nice.
2014. Yeah. I dabbled in stand-up comedy in that genre, that's what led me to being noticed by him.
Right.
And then he gave me my first professional job, which ended up turning into a tour opening for him across Australia, which was amazing. So that's the other thing. I mean, in some ways, I'm very lucky. I was thrusted into audiences of like minimum 500 or more people, not these, you know, 10 people here, 5 people at a club.
Yeah, which is super uncommon.
Yeah, it is super uncommon.
Yeah, it's a very unusual journey.
Yeah, that's right. So in that respect, I'm very lucky. And then there's other colleagues of mine like George Capignaris, who when I was a kid was on Acropolis Now. Yep. In more recent times, people like Tahir, you know, all these sort of well-known names in ethnic comedy. I just loved what they did because I related to it, you know.
It's hard to be original in that genre, though, isn't it? I mean,
yeah, definitely. You've got to be careful. And so I keep a close eye on all their material as they develop new shows.
Right.
It's important because I'm doing similar stuff and you think the same sometimes. Yeah. And you might end up with the same kind of gag. Unfortunately, I can't. It's got to go first to the big people.
Got it.
Because
so you just defer to them if you have a similar idea?
If I had a similar idea, look, occasionally I've had similar ideas to the others and I might have performed it and then I've gone to see their big show and they're doing like a really close gag, so I just pull it out of my set.
Right.
Because there's no point because they get, you know, their audiences are big. And once people have seen them do it, if they come and see me do it, they're just going to go, you're copying, regardless of whether I might have had the idea first. And that's fine. That's not a problem.
Do you think the future of this genre is bright or not? Because it's kind of come back in a way where a lot of younger comics are doing it. I don't know how I feel about that. It's a bit strange to me when I see someone in their early 20s or teens trying to do ethnic comedy. They're like third or fourth generation. I don't know if I'm a fan. Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's an interesting one. You know, and it takes me back to, you know, Joe Avati, his new world tour. If you go and see his new show, there's a lot of stuff there now that doesn't skew to the ethnic comedy. It's more about growing up in the 80s.
Right.
And it's from the perspective of an Italian guy, but it's not always heavy on the Italian.
Got it.
And I think even he has, you know, started to, you know, develop some mainstream stuff that can take him... That opens up even more doors, you know. And Joe's already huge. So I look at things that like he's doing and go, you know, that there's something to take from this, because even people like Joe Avati know that you need more than just talking about family and you know, your traditional the sauce gag, salami gag, all that sort of stuff. So where's it going? I have no idea. I think you just need to reinvent it somehow. And because a lot of the stories, the core stories used to come from Nonni in particular, and the things they did. Now those types of Nonni, we're losing them.
Sure.
As the generations pass, we're losing them. So whether you can get a new audience to relate to those stories becomes harder because they haven't seen it for themselves. They haven't experienced it or seen it.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, and sort of doing a whole show based on reminiscing without anyone that can relate to it will get to a point where it just doesn't work anymore because they don't know anyone that does that at all. They don't exist anymore.
Yeah, it can become very unrelatable.
Yeah, unrelatable.
And it sort of ties back to what we were talking about, where younger comics fall into the trap, and not just comics, but younger artists in general, and people fall into the trap of trying to emulate their heroes or idols. Yeah. And a lot of that stuff just smacks of that for me when I see a 20-year-old doing ethnic comedy now. It's like, you've kind of missed the boat, it seems like. Yeah. There's too many of us now doing it, probably. Yeah. To be honest, and then so you ask why? Well, why? Because it's kind of fashionable and it's popular.
it's always been popular to parody ethnic parents and stuff like that too.